The four men considered the faces of WWE throughout history are Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and John Cena. Nobody represented the brand the way they did, and they all reached the top through considerably different circumstances. While you could argue that Hulk Hogan was brought back to WWE by Vince McMahon to take the company to the next level in the 80s, and that young Rocky Maivia was pegged for success from the get-go, that certainly wasn't the case for John Cena. Not many people know this, but he was nearly fired at one point, and better yet, you won't believe who it was that saved his career and what it was that saved his career. We have to go back over 2 decades to 2002 when a young John Cena was looking to make a name for himself. Answering the open challenge of the already established Kurt Angle, he was asked what made him think he was worthy of stepping up to the best in the business. His reply would go on to define an entire era of WWE. His answer to Kurt Angle was 2 words: ruthless aggression. And he made a huge impact on his debut, coming close to upsetting Kurt Angle before falling short. After that, he got a stamp of approval from The Undertaker. Even after that, Chris Jericho, who headlined WrestleMania that year, said that he wanted to work with Cena, but half a year in, it just wasn't working. Cena spoke about this in the WWE documentary Ruthless Aggression and admitted it was his own fault. He had everything handed to him on a silver platter and even belonged to the greatest batch in developmental history with this Ohio Valley wrestling class featuring the likes of a young Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Batista, and Shelton Benjamin. His debut spot was better than most superstars can hope for, and he knew that. But even after his initial heel turn, things just weren't picking up for him. It was around October to November when WWE would make their biannual roster cuts, and Cena was informed in advance that he was going to be a part of those cuts. With nobody else to blame but himself, he went on what was supposed to be a farewell tour of sorts in Europe. Teaming up with Dawn Marie against Billy Kidman and Tori Wilson, it wasn't exactly the way he would have wanted to go out, but he did his job. What ultimately ended up saving his career was a moment on a tour bus. Rikishi and Rey Mysterio were having a freestyle rap in the back of the bus, and John Cena joined in. Do you know who else was witness to this? Stephanie McMahon. She was a creative backstage figure at the time and enjoyed Cena's rap so much that she told him to incorporate it into his character. Soon enough, he became the Doctor of Thugonomics, organically getting over as a heel and then a babyface. It wasn't just a heel turn that was necessary, but an entirely different character altogether. Although the shelf life of the character itself was only a little over 2 years, that's what got him to the top. The Doctor of Thugonomics character was a breath of fresh air and prevented him from getting released. It probably makes a lot more sense that the debut of the character came in a backstage segment directly involving Stephanie McMahon. As for how he eventually was chosen as the face of WWE, it was something special that set him apart, but largely his attitude, according to Bruce Pritchard. On an episode of Something to Wrestle With, Pritchard said that there were always a handful of guys who were discussed as the next face of the company. Brock Lesnar was once in the conversation, and Randy Orton and Batista were too. But Cena's attitude backstage seemed to be one of the big factors in choosing him, and it was a decision that paid off big. Pritchard said that the competition on the top is a shoot, and throughout the last few generations, there were always people fighting to be the guy and willing to do everything that came with it. But the biggest thing that Cena had going for him was that he wasn't handed that spot. He earned everything he had and went on to have a longer tenure as the face of WWE, beating out Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and even Hulk Hogan. With a decade as the company's top guy, he eventually became a blockbuster merchandise seller and a hero to millions around the world, as is evidenced by the record-breaking 650 plus wishes granted for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now imagine how different WWE history would be without the man who we refer to as the greatest of all time.